In this demo, I'll show you the new Create From Preview feature. This is a new workflow that lets you create virtual services from request-response pairs the same way that you create them from recordings. Since it is a preview feature, before we can use it, we need to enable it in the sandbox. So we open up our sandbox and enable the Create From feature. You'll now notice that under the Create menu in the left-hand pane, we have a new option called Virtual Service. When we're ready to create a new virtual service, the first thing that we get is a tile screen that gives us our options for ways that we can create a virtual service. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to use request-response pairs. First, I need to give my virtual service a name. And once I have given it a name and description, I can add request response pairs to my virtual service. Good. I now have a beginning set of request response pairs, and I can continue on to create my virtual service. This next window gives me the set of all the transactions that were contained within the request response pairs provided, and I can go and look at the request and the response data that was included. Now, other things we can do is we can modify these transactions right here and now. One thing I realized is that in fact I don't want operation 9, so I can just go ahead and delete that. So now it's gone. I have this request response pair, but now I'm realizing that, oh, I'm missing another operation that I wanted to virtualize. Unfortunately, that operation is not available right now. So I can go ahead and close out my work. I can go get the additional files that I need, follow up with development to make sure that I have the right data for my transactions, and then I can go back and resume where I left off. So you notice up in here, I see the virtual services that are in progress. And here is the virtual service I had just started creating, and I can come right back where I was. And now I can go ahead and add in an additional request and response. Now, if I had uploaded this in error, I can just go ahead and undo this. Sometimes your request response pairs may be in a zip file that have hundreds of request responses and you accidentally click the wrong file. So this is a convenience feature that enables you to undo the last operation that you had just performed. Now, when creating an HTTP virtual service, reasonable defaults are selected for you. But if we want to specify the port or change other settings at this point in time, we can. So within here, I can choose to explicitly assign a port. And I can choose whether I want to listen on all adapters or a specific one. And I'm just going to go ahead and go with the all. I, as well, can adjust and set SSL settings that may be needed, as well as enter a server for live invocation mode. Again, all of those values, reasonable defaults are chosen for you, so if you just want to, you can just click through and continue on to the next steps. Now, for those of you familiar with recording, all of this should look very familiar to you. I can take a look at my data protocols, noticing that the correct one has been automatically selected. So I can continue onwards. Should the DPH have required any configuration, I would be able to do so here, but JSON does not need any configuration. And now I can save my virtual service. Now you'll notice that the virtual service is placed into a project. I can choose which project I want it to go into. I can also automatically generate a baseline test from my request response pairs at this point in time, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the new virtual service is created, and I can find that virtual service right here with my virtual services where it was created, and I can also find the auto baseline test that was generated. And here are those auto baselines that were generated as part of creating that virtual service. And this is the new create from workflow.